Hey friends, so a while ago I had a pretty great period of making videos almost every day, or if there were days that I was particularly productive and I was making multiple videos, then I would sometimes take a few days off from making videos, but I would schedule them every day so that I could have a steady publishing schedule, and that felt really good. It felt good to, I think at my best, my streak was about 18 days. And then I can't remember what exactly happened. I might have had some external commitments. I might have just started feeling a bit, I wouldn't say burnt out. I think burnout is there's like a spectrum of feelings, and burnout should represent a specific state that is, I would say, more intense, more serious, more substantial than what I have been. I guess I just been a little bit tired, and I didn't want, I get, the interesting thing about working for yourself or doing your own thing is that you get to decide what works and what doesn't. You get to decide what you do and what you don't, and it can be a overwhelming prospect when you're starting out and you don't have a lot of experience kind of taking ownership for your own thing. But I have grown to enjoy it. I have grown to, even when I don't enjoy it, I appreciate learning about myself and learning what my values are, learning what my priorities are. So, I don't really subscribe to the idea of you should always be working on stuff like, and I'm talking about like creative stuff and personal stuff. So not necessarily work that you do for other people, not necessarily your job, but like, some people say things like you should be drawing or practicing music or whatever it is, that the thing that you're doing, you should be doing some of it every day. I do think that's, it's a helpful frame, but I don't know if that frame should be kind of I don't know how solid that frame should be, how impermeable, how unflexible. If you're completely flexible about it, then you might as well not have it. But if you're completely inflexible about it, then, well, it's up to you. That's the thing. It's your choice how you want to navigate it, and there's nobody else can really answer these things for you. And looking to other people for answers, even if you do. So I think might have been Alan Watts who said it, but like there's this problem with advice, right? Which is when you seek out advice, you still have to decide whether or not you're going to follow it. And if, let's say, you ask multiple people for advice and they all give you different answers, then you have to choose which you think resonates the most for you, or which do you think is the most applicable to your situation. And so ultimately the buck always stops with you. Ultimately, it's your responsibility, and you take ownership for your life and your decisions and what matters to you. And there was a time in my life where I kind of resented that, but with practice and with trial and error and over time, I've come to appreciate it. I've come to see it as a form of self-expression, right? And the decisions that you make are a form of self-expression. You express yourself through your decisions, and decisions are choices, right? One of the principles of storytelling is characters can only really be as interesting as the decisions they make. And as an author or a writer or a storyteller, you can't create interesting characters if you don't put them through interesting times where they have to make challenging decisions. And then how they make decisions is what ends up defining them as characters. It's what makes people like or dislike them. And so I have a list of video ideas for my YouTube channel, and I have things that I want to talk about and things that I know I want to make a video about eventually, but I don't currently feel comfortable doing it right now, probably because, well, at some level my standards are too high for some things, and it's I want to always be getting better and always be raising my standards, so there will always be a gap, right? Ira Glass has a beautiful quote about the gap, where as a creative person, you get into the game typically because you have taste, you have ideas about what is good and what is not, and what you think should exist that doesn't exist, and then you try to make stuff, and then there will be a gap because your ability to create what you want has not yet risen to the level of your taste. And in practice, I think very often creatives will find that with practice, right? As you get better and better at closing the gap, you then develop the ability to envision something even more beautiful, even more complex, even more nuanced, whatever it is, even more dramatic. Just something better that you couldn't conceive of in the earlier stage. So it's an ongoing process. And anyway, so the video I wanted to make today is about baby steps, and I'm choosing it. It's kind of self-referential in the sense that I didn't feel like making a video tonight. I just didn't. I'm kind of tired. I woke up really late. I've been sleeping very badly for the past few weeks. And what does sleeping badly mean, right? Everybody has different definitions. I get to live on my own schedule because I don't have a job. Like I make my money from ebooks, Patreon, from doing consulting. And those are very flexible things. So if I want to spend a week doing nothing but playing video games, I can. That's the life that I've designed for myself. But then there will be subsequent consequences that I would have to deal with. But the fact is I can do whatever I like. And one of the things I'm trying to do is, so this year I set out a goal for myself that I want to make 100 videos. And, again, I've mentioned this in the video about making 100 videos, but I'll just repeat myself. If I wanted to cheat and I could just do 100 videos of 30 seconds of rambling or just waving my hands or doing something silly, and then I would be done. I would make 100 videos, but that's not exactly what I want. What I want is 100 thoughtful videos, right? I want the videos to represent me. I want the videos to represent my thoughts and ideas. I want them to be things that I can share with people. I want them to be like beacons in some way that people will find them and they will watch them, and then they will, if they resonate with me, they will reach out to me, they'll comment in the videos, right? And I want to build that asset. And I don't want to phone it in, and again, like, what does phone it in mean, right? There's a spectrum of effort involved and time and all of those things. Everything is multivariate, right? There's multiple variables to everything. And at some level, all of these videos are phoned in because all of them are just ad-libs, meaning I hit record on the video and I just start talking. And it's clearer to me now, about 50 to 7. Now this is my 72nd video that I'm making this year, right? In this style of video. And it's clearer to me now that the next level of videos that I make will be, I'll continue doing these ad-libs because I enjoy them. Or, maybe I do think there's value in publishing the verbal equivalent of what I do with my word vomit writing, which is to just start talking and you can see me, fumble with my words and trying to figure out what I'm saying. I'm thinking out loud. I think there's a value in that, and I think people undervalue it broadly. And I can understand why, because it does take a lot of time, and the kind of return on investment is not super clear. But I feel that I should do it, and so I'm doing it. Maybe I'll cut back. Maybe I'll do like one ad-lib a month, a year from now. We'll see. Figuring that stuff out is part of the fun, right? But okay, I can see that, so all of these ad-lib videos, I don't really make a clear promise in the title, right? These videos are literally just me talking about ideas and talking around ideas. It's very meandering. It's very, it ebbs and flows. There's no clear focus, and it's kind of how I like it, because I would rather cover a lot of territory than have a poorly defined focus and focus on the wrong thing, right? So, but I'm starting to see more clearly now what are the sort of videos that I could make that would be more, have more of a clear focus. For example, the best performing video about it on my channel so far among these ad-libs is my video about friends, and the title is "We Can Always Get Better at Making Friends." And I just ramble about friendship for like an hour, 40 minutes, I think. And what I could do instead, or subsequently, is make a series of videos that are very, that can be short, that can be like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, that are more dense in terms of information, meaning let's say how to reply to people well on Twitter, and then I can give like 5 examples of it done well, 5 examples of it done poorly, what the principles are, right? It's much more decisive and to do that, I would have to do a bit of homework. I would have to write down a script, for example. I would have to plan out what's going to be in the video, because I don't naturally think in such a systematic or formulaic way and a structured way, effectively, right? It's like free sketching versus planning out a scene. And I have been basically free sketching. But even when I say free sketching, it's not entirely completely random. Like I have a notebook, and previously I was using my whiteboard, and I where I list out all the possible ideas in my mind. So in a way, there's some planning involved. I do scope out the whole territory and then carve out really big and broad blocks of ideas that I want to explore around. And then once I do that, I can start kind of further narrowing it down into like what the core value is. And I like it. I'm pretty happy. But so this video is about baby steps, right? And I found a tweet from myself in 2012 where I was tweeting baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, as a way of reminding myself to do small things repeatedly, one after the other. And nobody really taught me that. I don't think, I would say it's one of the most foundational ideas in learning and in doing anything. And it seems obvious to me now, but I remember that there was a time where it wasn't obvious, which is why I had to remind myself of it, which is that, everything you want to do, everything you want to learn, everything you want to accomplish, whatever big thing, and I do talk about this in the project management video, everything I do, everything you could do is big, right? Typically, nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks my vision in life is to lay one brick, right? I mean, metaphorically, right? The vision is usually, I would like to build a rocket ship. I would like to build a house. I would like to build something, a cathedral, right? Something beautiful and inspiring, something that makes you excited. But cathedrals and homes and even rocket ships in their sense, right? They're all made up of smaller components. They're all made up one brick at a time. In the case of a rocket ship, there's the gas and the casings and the fairings, do they call them that? And just there's all these elements. It's made up of everything is made up of other things, and you can't make the big thing without getting good at making the smaller things. And in the context of a life, right, you have days, right? You live in days, at least. Let's just say from the time you sleep to the time you wake up, assuming you sleep in one session, right? You might be polyphasing, but let's just say you have each waking day, whatever time you wake up until whatever time you go to bed. You need to eat at some point, typically, right? You have to have meals. There's a rhythm to your day, and then your day ends and you got to go to sleep, typically, right? And so anything that you want to accomplish is limited by the frame of the day. So anything you can accomplish in a given day is limited by the frame of the day. And even then, nobody really works all day on anything, right? Again, you have to break things down into smaller chunks. This way you get ideas like time boxing, Pomodoro technique, whatever. It doesn't matter what the name is. The point is, if you want to do something substantial, you have to start by taking baby steps. You have to do it bit by bit. If you want to learn a new language, you have to start by learning a word, multiple words, one word at a time, and then one phrase at a time, and then you try and use each phrase in multiple contexts, and you try to, and I've been learning this with music. And so here's where I'm really kind of shocked / devastated slightly, but also excited, which is that, how did I start learning music as a kid, right? I borrowed a friend's guitar. I went on the internet, and back then there weren't like YouTube resources and stuff were not very good. It was all early days, 2004, right? It was just, I would go to websites with tabs on them, like how do you play a G chord? And they're like, oh, you got to press the 3rd fret, the 2nd fret, no fret, 3rd fret, and it's a G. And so I would try to learn the chords to play the songs that I wanted to play. And I could do that, so I did succeed at that. And then I kind of stagnated in the middle. I didn't know, like it felt like there was the stuff that I learned how to do, which was very, very simple stuff. And then there was like stuff that impressed me, very complex and elaborate stuff that I couldn't even comprehend yet, right? And then just, I guess I just kept circling around what I knew and looking at what I aspired to. And I wasn't very explicit about aspiring to that thing. I would just, this is what I know, and hopefully someday I'll get there. But I didn't make a plan. I didn't break down the complex stuff into simpler elements. And even within the stuff that I knew it in very I call it boxy ways. Like I would know certain chords, but it's like how, most people who know how to drive, and I don't actually have a driver's license, but most people who know how to drive, they don't know how the car works. What they know is that you open the door, you unlock the door, you open the door, you get in, you put the keys in the ignition, you turn it, the car turns on, right? The engine, you might have some vague idea, oh, there's a spark plug that lights something, but most people don't even know that. They just know that you get in the car, you turn the ignition, the engine starts, and then now you can step on the gas, right, the accelerator, and then there's the brake, and then if you have gears, you change the gears, and these days you have automatic, and if you even have electric cars, so it might not necessarily be gas, but turn the key, the car turns on, and then you drive, and then the wheels turn, there's a reverse, and that's about it. That's all you really know, right? But if you want to build cars, you need to pop open the hood and understand what is going on, right? And similarly, when you are learning music, this is what I'm learning right now, you have to you learn whatever you can. You learn that some popular song is C, G, A minor, F. Tons of songs are like that. But then, if you get satisfied with that, or you kind of get comfortable with that, and you never pop the hood to look inside the chords and to look inside the notes and to understand how the notes relate to each other, then you're kind of trapped there. Like, you never quite get much further than that. And sometimes the cool thing with music is you might make an accident with your fingers, and the accident sounds interesting, and then you might repeat it, and then you're like, oh, I have a new thing that I can do that I learned by accident. That's one of the cool things about music. And you can be deliberate about trying to take random walks on your instrument, whether it's your fretboard or your keyboard or whatever, and try to go on random walks and find interesting things, and then you try to reverse engineer and understand why it's interesting. But so the thing that has been blowing my mind with my musical self-education is that, every song you can think of is a melody that can be played on an instrument, and the voice is an incredible instrument that we, even if you've never taken vocal lessons before, if you've sung along to nursery rhymes, you've sung along to Christmas songs, you naturally develop this ability to approximate the notes in the song. And there's pitches, there's da 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 da, whatever it is. There's ups and downs, higher pitches, lower pitches, harmonies. It doesn't. The details don't really matter. The point is, every note, and this I'm really just learning this. I mean, I knew it intellectually, but to feel it in my fingers is something crazy. Every note has some possible relation to the next note, like how far away it is. And think of this in terms of like math. Like, just imagine in numbers. If you can count up in even numbers, if you count in ones, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you count in twos, you get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Count in threes, you get 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. You count in fours, you get 4, 8, 12, 16. And you notice that, every number in fours is also in every number in twos, because the fours are just twos twice, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 4, 8, right, and so on. And the same, and so every number, let's just talk about numbers from like 1 to 12, right? Every number, if you're adding, let's say you're adding 7, what's 15 plus 7, right? You can break down the 7 into its constituent numbers. So a 7 can be 1 and 6, a 7 can be 2 and 5, a 7 can be 3 and 4, and then 4 and 3 is also 3 and 4, 5 and 2 is also 2 and 5. So it's, you get 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4. Those are the three ways in which, and 0, 7. So let's include 0, 7. 0, 7, 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4. Those are the 4 ways, right, you can break down a 7. And so when you get something like 15 plus 7, you can say, you know that 15 plus 5 is 20, because 5, 10, 15, 20. And then you know that, so you can change 15 plus 7 into 15 plus 5 plus 2, and then you get 22, right? And for me, I find that speeds up my arithmetic. It makes me go faster. And I'm sure some version of it is happening when I'm typing. So I can type without thinking. I'm a touch typer or whatever. I never went for courses and whatnot. I just typed a lot, and over time, my fingers just know where to go. And if you ask me, where's the O on the keyboard? Like if you show me a blank keyboard and you're like, point me to an O, I'm like, I have to think about it. So I gotta be like, N-O. What does nope feel like? N-O. So O is up here, right? And yeah, it turns out, N-O-P-E. But if I looked at a keyboard, I don't know if I could point it out without feeling it. So there's some kind of felt intelligence, fingertip intelligence, that when I'm typing, I don't think about each letter as I'm typing. Just as I haven't been thinking about each word that I'm saying. Right? It's mind-blowing. It's if I had to stop to think about each word that I'm going to say before I say it, I don't know if I'd get anywhere. And it's really, there is some kind of intelligence, subconscious maybe, I don't know, that from experience, it processes the words that I've heard before. It processes the conversations that I've had before. And, while playing music, I've been realizing that there's rhythm to words. We're singing all the time. Having conversations is singing. We go down, we go up. It's just, I don't know how to. I could analyze retrospectively by seeing how I slow down, how I raise my volume, how I inflections. There are people who study this. You can get really good at it without studying it explicitly, like in a classroom, kind of analyze this setting. You can just study it. So I guess what I'm getting at is there's multiple kinds of study, and the best kind of study, in my experience, productive study, is experimentation. It's trying different things in different contexts, and maybe practice speaking slower, practice speaking faster. I don't know if you would ever want to deliberately practice speaking in a monotone so that your voice doesn't change very much, and then see what that sounds like. But it's song. We're singing all the time when we are writing, when we're speaking. Sorry, and when we're writing. Writing is also, and so I find that playing music has made me more sensitive to the sing-song nature of speech. And that is definitely going to make me a better writer. I don't have to think about it, because I know that I write the way I think, and I have the words order themselves in my head without my direct conscious involvement. And what does all of that have to do with baby steps? Right, so what I'm learning is that they are all, and I was reading one of my word vomits earlier, and it's about cooking and about how I'm very late to learning how to cook. For the first 25 years of my life, I was terrified of the kitchen. I was terrified of food. I was a picky eater. I didn't understand food. It grossed me out. It confused me, like all the sauces and colors and textures. Like I was just, I liked very simple and easy to understand food, like fish and chips, that kind of thing, burgers. And I decided at about 25 that I didn't want to be that way in my late 20s. So I'm like, okay, what's something that I can learn how to cook? I'm going to learn how to cook chicken breast, right? It can't be that difficult. It seems simple enough. I go on YouTube and I watch videos of how people cook chicken breast. And I'm like, okay, what do I need? I don't know anything. I don't even know what I don't know. I know I have some kitchen stuff because I share my household with my wife, and she cooks sometimes. And I'm like, okay, I need a pan, right? I'm going to pan fry my chicken, which means I'm going to use a pan. I'm going to put the chicken on the pan, and then I'm going to turn up the heat, and then hopefully not burn it, and hopefully not undercook it, right? I'm like, okay, to do that, you can't just literally put the chicken on the pan. That sticks the chicken to the pan or something like that, right? And so you need some kind of intermediary between the pan and the chicken. You can use butter, you can use oil, and I think I use butter. And then you gotta, you want to chop up the chicken so that the pieces of chicken, if you have the one big slab of chicken breast and you try to pan fry it, the heat doesn't go all the way through the way you want it to. Or, I'm too incompetent of a chef, who doesn't know anything, to be able to pan fry an entire chicken breast. I don't know if people can do it or know how to do it. I'm guessing you probably need low heat so that you don't burn the base. And you let it, like all of these things that I'm saying now were things that were completely foreign to me when I first tried to think about cooking. I don't even know, are you gonna cut the breast? How are you gonna cut it? Like where? It's just, and it's like play. You you have to allow yourself to make mistakes and learn from each mistake, right? And I'm sure that the first time I cut the chicken breast, it was a very intimate experience. I found, like, to be touching the meat myself and like washing it, and I found myself grateful for the chicken that died for me, right? And you cut. So I cut it in half through the middle. I don't think I even got it like perfectly half. Like, so it's kind of like, the breast is like, how do I depict the breast with my hands? Let's say the breast is like this. I cut it kind of like diagonally a little bit rather than across, and so the width is slightly off, but still. And then I cut it into chunks. So it's not very pretty. It's like little squares of chicken meat. And while I was doing that, I find myself like, oh, chicken meat has like fibers, right? And if you cut against the fiber, it's not very, like, there's this whole thing of, do you want to cut against the fiber or along the fiber? Like, you have choices you can make. And again, as a person who had never cooked before, I had never considered any of those things, and it was interesting to learn as I went, right? So I cut the meat, and then I put it on the pan, and I think I kept the heat pretty low, and I watched the meat kind of change color, and I would poke it to see that it feels. I don't really know what's going on, and then I think I turned up the heat right at the end to get like a browning on and I burned some of it, and some of it was maybe undercooked, but I ate it, and it was amazing. Like, it tasted pretty good. I wouldn't say it's not the best chicken I've had. It's like maybe on a scale of 1 to 10 of the best chicken I've had, it was like a 7 or a 6.5. And to me, to experience myself, the first time I made chicken breast with trial and error, not knowing what I was doing, and it was like a 6.5 to a 7, that blew my mind. That I could. It changed my mental model of myself and my relationship with food. I used to think that food was some intimidating, scary thing that I would never understand and never be able to think. And it limited my life, and it limited my self-concept, and it diminished my self-respect. I couldn't respect myself as a person who didn't know how to prepare food. And, it turned out to be so much easier than I thought. And it's just baby steps. That's what I'm getting at. Like, you just try it, you fail. Within the bunch of pieces that failed, some are better than others, and you try to understand why did this particular piece of chicken taste better than the others. And you notice that, those that I cut a certain way, the thinner pieces seem to be harder to screw up because I guess they're not so thick, and so they don't go. Just there are these little variables, and you try to understand. You try to order the chicken in order of what you think looks good and what you think will taste good, and you try it, and then you learn something, and then all of these learnings are very localized to the chicken, right? And to what you did with the pan. Did you use too much butter? Did you use too much heat? And like, you can't learn all these things in advance, in my experience. I can't learn all these things in advance because I need to see how the things react with each other. I need to see the interactions of the relationships. And that's what I was getting at with the musical melodies on the guitar. What I have been learning is that I used to try to think of things in terms of elaborate scales and stuff, and there's a much simpler way of thinking about it, which is that every melody is just a series of notes, right? And there's actually very limited number of relationships between notes. You go up or you go down by some small or big amount, and practically most melodies are like, 3 or 4 notes that are like half step or 1 step between each of them. And as you start practicing melodies on your instrument from many, many different songs, you start to notice that a lot of songs that sound a certain way, you start to notice similarities between different songs that you like, which then makes it seem like, these songs are all the same kind of song. Like melodies. These phrases in these melodies are the same kind of melodies. And that's the case with speaking as well. Like, the way you use the sentences, the word, like, we end up using the same, most casual conversation uses less than 100 different words or something like that, right? It's just the few basic words used in a few different orders over and over again. And there's something liberating about that. There's something, it makes things, when you realize that things are baby steps, that, you can get to very, very complex things from very, very simple starting points, right? And, again, I made the chicken, and then I'm like, I could, so I literally had a plate with chicken on it, and I was eating it, and I felt good about myself. And I think I'm like, okay, how do we make this less boring, right? I'm like, okay, let's add some mustard. And I'm eating my chicken with my mustard. Is that weird? fuck it, something different. What else goes with that? You know, you could add some vegetables, maybe like broccoli. Right? When you have the broccoli, you're like, what goes nice with the broccoli? Maybe some sour cream. You know, like you, instead of trying to plan a complex, scary sounding meal, you're like, what's the base? What's the foundation? A piece of chicken, a piece of fish, a piece of, you know, some potatoes. And so I tried cooking potatoes. So you just literally cut the potatoes and you push them around on the pan where there was the butter before. It's nice. It's good enough to eat, and it's just this very, I call this like the junkyard chaos school of learning, and it's how I learn how to draw. It's how I learn how to stretch and to breathe and to write and to sing and to play music. It's all just relationships between small things, and you try to do a bunch of things, like very, very small things. Never like, you know, so one of the things I've been trying to learn is you know, I enjoy video game music, and some of my favorite video game songs are pretty complex, but within that overall complex song there might be some part of the song that has a fairly simple phrase that I can sing. Now it's like, if I can sing a melody, I can play it on the guitar. Like, that's I mean, I haven't completely tested this for every single melody that I know, but I have been testing it, and it feels really good. My ear to finger connection has been strengthening. And again, it's just baby steps. You just try, like, if you have an idea of where the next note is, you can go and watch this on my Jingle Bells video in my music learning journey. It's like, you get the note wrong, but like one of the notes is correct, and there's like this small neighborhood of wrong notes that you can just try each one until you get it right. Then once you get it right, you know what it is, and then you can come back to it, and that reinforces, and then now you have an understanding. Anyway, this video is now half an hour, and I feel like I've said what I have to say. I guess I'll close with this, which is that, you know, so baby steps are literally, you know, about a baby learning how to walk. And when you watch a baby learn how to walk, we don't send kids to walking school. We just, you know, everyone around children walks. We all walk. I mean, apologies to people who have like disabilities or whatever, but I mean, you know, like, and I mean also for language, for speaking, or for just functioning, right? For doing things that we take for granted as adults that as babies we couldn't do. Like, can you touch your nose? And a baby will struggle to touch its nose. It'll be like, right? It's because the neurological function isn't there yet. But consider how we treat kids learning to touch their nose, learning to touch their eye, their ears, their mouth, whatever, and learning to walk. Like, we don't pressure them to do it, like, with a lot of, we don't make it burdensome. Well, it depends. I guess it depends on the parents and whatnot. But I mean, broadly, when a child learns to walk, you might be like, hey, you're walking, great. You know, that's about it. But like, hopefully, I mean, you know, like, there's a whole separate thing about having over too much praise for learning, right? But just when a child learns to touch his nose, or a child learns to walk, or a child learns to say things, what we do ideally is we walk with them, we walk around them, we make play games with them, we sing nursery rhymes with them. Singing a nursery rhyme is a remarkably complex task. It involves manipulating your vocal cords to get the notes right, and we take it for granted. It's a lot more complex than it seems. And here's the thing though, when we reach that level of competence, we tend to kind of stop, I guess. Like, my point is, when you see a gymnast, right, an Olympic gymnast, like Simone Biles, whatever, I saw a video of her doing like a triple, double, multiple spins and shit. And you see a concert pianist playing Tchaikovsky or some grand epic concert violinist, you know, amazing, complex nuance, a ballerina, all these graceful, gracious, beautiful, nuanced, complex behaviors. It's all just neurons in their brain firing to the muscles in their body. And, you know, there's motor skills involved, right? Watching a person play Diablo 2 or a video game at a very high level, right? Scope, like micro, like all these things that seem incredibly difficult and challenging. It's the same process as learning to touch your nose or learning to walk. You know, it's just the same thing over and over again. It's just that we expect people to be able to walk. We expect people to be able to touch their nose, right? We don't expect people to be able to fly like a gymnast or to play concert piano. And, you know, kids, some of the best musicians in the world are kids who grow up in musical families. And, you know, Victor Wooten is one of my favorite people to listen to about this. He describes how, with his brothers, they weren't like pushing him to learn music. They were just playing music around him, and so it was just natural for him to try to play along. And it, you know, that's I think what is ideal for learning of any kind. And yeah, so I made this video because I feel like I need to keep taking baby steps in terms of making more videos, and I do feel like I'm in a little bit of I wouldn't say a rut. I'm like kind of plateauing where I feel like I could make my videos better. Like I can see the threshold where I'm gonna make better videos, and how I'm gonna do that. One way I'm gonna do that is by planning my videos a little bit more, by having a few talking points per video before I start, so that I can plan them. I guess I'll just think about it, right? But you know, each video published is a baby step, and I will figure it out as I go. So thanks for hanging out. Done.